Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Gourmet Guru 23. Thanks for the suggestion. You asked, why is caviar so expensive? If you've ever seen a tiny tin of caviar with a price tag that could fund your weekend getaway, you've probably wondered, what makes these fish eggs so special? Today, we're diving into the rich history, meticulous production, and sheer extravagance that have turned caviar into one of the world's most luxurious delicacies. So, if you're curious about why this salty treat is worth its weight in gold, or at least priced like it, stick around as we break down the briny mystery of caviar, right here on Explaining Everything. Caviar is the unfertilized eggs, or roe, of sturgeon fish. Not salmon, not trout, sturgeon. These prehistoric creatures look like dinosaurs that somehow missed the extinction memo. But here's the kicker. There are around 27 species of sturgeon, and not all of them produce caviar that's worth the price of a small car. Beluga sturgeon, for example, produce the creme de la creme of caviar. And they're picky about where they live, which leads us to our next point. If sturgeon were people, they'd demand bottled water, silk bed sheets, and a personal assistant. These fish take years, sometimes decades, to reach maturity and start producing roe. Imagine investing in a stock that doesn't pay dividends for 20 years. That's essentially what sturgeon farming is. And because wild sturgeon populations have been overfished, many are now endangered. So, most caviar comes from carefully regulated fish farms, which are like luxury spas for sturgeon. Farmers need to maintain pristine water quality, feed the fish a gourmet diet, and ensure they're not stressed. Why? Because a stressed-out sturgeon produces bad roe, and bad roe is a no-go. It's like wine. If the grapes have a bad year, the wine suffers. Except instead of grapes, it's giant, moody fish. Let's talk about the actual process of getting caviar. Harvesting sturgeon roe is delicate, time-consuming, and, let's be honest, kind of gross. Traditionally, sturgeon are killed to extract the eggs, which doesn't exactly make for a renewable resource. Imagine harvesting fruit from a tree, but cutting down the whole tree every time. Recently, some farms have developed a method called no-kill caviar, where the roe is gently massaged out of the fish. Yes, you heard that right, massaged. Somewhere out there, a sturgeon is living a better life than you, complete with spa treatments. But even with these advancements, the process is labor-intensive, which drives up costs. Now, let's talk economics. Sturgeon roe is not something you can mass-produce like potato chips. These fish are rare. Their roe takes years to harvest, and the whole process is painstaking. That means the supply of high-quality caviar is incredibly limited. Meanwhile, the demand for caviar is sky-high, because nothing screams, "I've made it," like eating something that costs more per gram than gold. It's the food equivalent of a luxury car. Flashy, unnecessary, but undeniably impressive. If you think wine snobs are intense, wait until you meet caviar connoisseurs. Each batch of caviar is meticulously graded based on size, texture, color, and flavor. It's not just fish eggs in a tin. The best caviar has a buttery, nutty taste with just the right pop when you bite into it. Anything less is a culinary crime. This level of quality control requires experts who know their roe. These are people who can probably taste the difference between sturgeon from one river versus another. Their expertise doesn't come cheap, and neither does the product they're grading. Have you seen how caviar is packaged? It doesn't come in a Ziploc bag, that's for sure. Premium caviar is sold in airtight, high-end tins designed to preserve freshness and scream fancy. The packaging alone probably costs more than your favorite pizza. Plus, caviar requires precise refrigeration during transport. It's like handling an organ for transplant. Serious stuff. Any lapse in temperature could ruin the product, which means the entire supply chain is built around keeping those little eggs perfectly chilled. Is it worth the price? That's the million-dollar question. Or should we say, the $10,000 per kilogram question. For many people, caviar is an acquired taste. The first time you try it, you might wonder why anyone would pay so much for something that tastes like the ocean sneezed on your cracker. But for others, it's a delicacy that's worth every penny. It's not just about the taste. It's about the experience, the luxury, and the bragging rights. Because let's face it, nothing says, "I'm living my best life," like casually mentioning you had caviar for breakfast. So, why is caviar so expensive? It's a combination of rare fish, a painstaking production process, sky-high demand, and a dash of old-school snob appeal. Whether you think it's worth the hype or not, one thing's for sure. Caviar isn't just food, it's a statement. And now, the next time someone offers you a spoonful of this salty, extravagant treat, you can confidently say, "No thanks, I'll stick to my chips and salsa." Or, who knows, maybe you'll finally get what all the fuss is about. Just don't forget to savor every tiny, overpriced bite. If you enjoyed unraveling the mystery of caviar's sky-high price, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing stories behind the everyday and extraordinary. And if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.